Giving money, you do it once and you forget about it. Once you stick to a certain initiative, healing for Gaza for me, I'm stuck with it. I've started this initiative. It's there forever,
Yep.
And also the movie, and the book.
They're tangible things that you've left an imprint on. Hi, I'm Malak Fuad, and welcome to What I Did Next from ANT Media, where I sit down with a new guest each month and we take a deep dive into their lives' most pivotal moments. I'm joined today by Azzam Fakhreddin, a name that will be familiar to many across the Middle East, as being synonymous with some of the best restaurants in our region. Beyond hospitality, and after hitting the gentle age of 50, Azzam has taken on more and more passion projects. In the first part of our conversation, we talk about Azzam's involvement in the recently published book, Palestine, Memories of 1948, which features 20 people, including his own father. Perhaps the project closest to his heart today, and certainly the most high profile, is his role as producer on the film Palestine36. The film is the official Palestine entry for the Best International Feature Film at the 2026 Oscars and is creating huge buzz. Starring the iconic actor Jeremy Irons and Liam Cunningham, the film is directed by Anne-Marie Jasser and has received funding from the British Film Institute. It'll be premiering in London in the middle of this month. So Azzam, I'm really, really thrilled that you're on the show. And you and I have known each other for a long time, not well. We have a lot of very good friends in common, but we reconnected this summer. And I knew immediately that you'd be perfect for the show. You're engaging, you're outspoken, you have a story to tell, you're a good communicator.
I already have a big head after this introduction, so so I need to be grounded again.
No. It'll be, I'm sure it's definitely warranted. I do want to begin with your early years because like a lot of Palestinians, you grew up outside of Palestine. Your father did not grow up there himself. Is that correct?
That's very correct, yeah.
And you were born and raised in Kuwait.
I was actually born in Nablus.
Okay.
But we never lived in Nablus, but I was born in summer. And at that time, just like families now go to Canada and the States to get their children conceived, my parents went to Nablus back home.
How interesting.
Yeah, because my mom wanted to be around her mother, who was living in Nablus. But we were living, my dad was living in Kuwait since 1951, he's been there since Kuwait was basically a desert. But I happened to be born in June, so I was born in Nablus, but raised all my life in Kuwait.
Tell me about Kuwait in those years. I know a lot of people who were raised in Kuwait in the 70s, whether they were Egyptian, whether they were Kuwaiti, whether they were like you, Palestinian. What was it like? Because I had a similar upbringing in Saudi, in Jeddah. So I wonder if there were any similarities. What was it like for you?
Kuwait was an amazing place at that time. In terms of, when I meet people from whatever nationality, after half an hour of talking, I would ask, were you raised in Kuwait? There is something about that identity. And I'm talking about Egyptians, Lebanese, whatever. Kuwait at that time in the 70s was very, there was freedom of speech. It was the business center. There was no Dubai. There was no nothing. It was Kuwait. And there was a very strong pan-Arab movement. The PLO was established there. You had people like Ghassan Kanafani or Najil Ali and all those. And there was this movement of, first, it was very cosmopolitan. It was very advanced. And, they used to call it Durrat al-Khalij, the pearl of the Gulf. And there was a lot of, everybody was there to work and work hard. And it's really strange because every time you meet somebody and you feel there's a lot of, resilience and strength, they would be at one point either born in Kuwait or raised in Kuwait or their parents lived in Kuwait. It was a very good time. And it really shaped me in that kind of very, committed to the cause, because at that time, especially in the 80s with Sabra and Shatila, Yawm al-Ard, the day of the land, we would go out, the schools would close. We were in English schools, but they would actually get us out into the hall and make us, march. It was very, very politicized. And I'm talking about all nationalities. It's very politicized in a very pan-Arab way.
And what was at the time when you were growing up, the population that was Palestinian was a very high percentage, right?
It was the highest, the Egyptian and the Palestinian. It was like, Kuwait was 2 million people, and you had like around 500,000 Palestinians there. It was,
Yeah.
and every business had a Palestinian, every ministry had a Palestinian. It was home to the Palestinians. And mind you, as I said, PLO was established there. 5% of all the workers who are Palestinians, 5% of their salaries were given by law in Kuwait to the PLO. So that's
Oh,
how
no, I didn't
there
know
was
that,
connection.
really.
Oh yes, that was a
And that
rule.
was
That
by
was a rule.
Kuwaiti law. Kuwaiti law made that
Yes,
interesting.
absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And what was your father doing there? What was his work at the time in Kuwait?
So my father is very interesting because my father was the son of a big leader in Palestine. His father used to work with Haj Amin Husseini and Abdul Qadir Husseini, and they're part of the people who started the revolt in 36 to 39, which we'll talk about
Which
later.
we're going to talk about in a lot of detail.
Yeah. And so my dad has been a refugee, really, if you think of it, over 4 times. 36, and then they had to go to Iraq and to Syria, and then to Iraq and back in 48. Anyway, to make a long story short, he left in 1951 while they were in. His father lived in the West Bank. To Kuwait to work because my uncle was working there, and he started himself with nothing. He went there. Took him maybe 4 days to reach Kuwait. He was like 20 years old, and started his own thing of like literally selling stuff with a Kuwaiti guy who was helping him, and then built himself up, and he became into retail business, clothing business, which was Kuwait was nothing. It was a desert, but he was able to build. He's very street smart. He's very good with PR.
And there's that merchant quality, which is a very
Exactly.
classic Levantian, ability, basically. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
I'm always, when I hear stories where the world is full of Palestinian stories now, but when you hear personal, individual stories, I'm always amazed. And it's a word that gets used so much, which begins to lose its meaning, which is the resilience and the ability to begin again and again and again every time you have to move. How did your father do that? And how, did he talk about this with you? Was this something that he was open about, or is it something that he just absorbed and did without sharing with you what it meant for him?
Well, it's very strange you say that because my dad is 93 now. Okay, so
MashaAllah.
he's seen it all. With Palestinians in general, um, people wonder. I mean, we have the highest literacy in the Arab world. We have the most educated people, and it's because we have nothing but that to stick to. The education and the work, and that's what makes us survive. Because we feel at any point this can happen again, which is happening. Um, so my dad didn't speak much about all of what he's seen until now, until I was able to push him in the last year or two, saying, you need to say your stories. If not for us, for history, for our grandchildren and everything.
And it was based on that, Ya Azzam, that you developed the book?
Yes, absolutely.
You worked on a book called Memories of Palestine 1948, where you have 21 personalities from different cities and villages who lived and remembered what happened in 1948 and then who left and built their lives elsewhere. You mentioned to me that 6 of the 21 have since then passed away.
That's true.
But you did this to keep these stories alive, right?
It was inspired initially with my dad. My dad has amazing stories because his father was the leader of Bisan. Bisan and Nablus were all in one governorate.
What year was your father born in?
1932.
32. So he doesn't remember the Ottomans, but he has stories from his own father of that period.
He remembers very well the first time he had to leave Palestine in 1938.
Yes.
When my grandfather was jailed in Akka as part of the rebels and the resistant fighters that were fighting the British. And a lot of them were being hanged.
Yes.
So it's a very interesting story. And this is in the book. So my grandfather, when he was in jail, he got this. They used to bring them food from their families.
Yeah.
And he asked for red pepper, really strong red pepper. And he got it and he started putting it under his armpits and in the genitals so he can get the temperature high.
So he can act like he's sick.
Yes, and then they had to bring him really quickly to the hospital, and the rebel friends of him were there, and they made him escape and go, and they knocked at the door of my dad, who was 8 years old, and he said, "We're leaving now." And they had to get into the horses and stuff and go run to Syria. And my dad will never forget that he had to leave behind his bicycle.
A typical child, this is what they worry
Yes.
about, Yeah, of course.
So he didn't talk about these things a lot, but then, he would say little bits and pieces. And I kept on telling him, Baba, we have to talk about this. We have to record this. It's for the grandchildren, for great grandchildren. This is because if Malak, this is now, it's the last generation who actually lived 1948.
Yeah.
So actually remember, I'm talking about my dad was 16 years old when it was 1948. So he remembers 100% what happened.
And how did you pick the people from the book, the 21 people? How did you choose them? Was it family members? Was it?
No. I didn't choose them all. I met in this reception a historian writer, Chilean French, called Chris Conti. Okay, she's very, very pro-Palestinian. The Chilean also are very big. There's a huge community of Palestinians in Chile. Yes. So when I met her, she had told me that she worked in Spanish into a book that talks about the memories of certain people who she met all over the world, who had went and actually rebuilt their lives, but lived in different villages of 48. There were like around 16 characters. Okay, so basically she was just translating it into French. And she gave me the book, I read it, and I thought this was music to my ears, because to me, exactly what I had in mind about my father.
So you joined forces, basically.
Exactly. I told her, look, we need to do it in English and in Arabic, and I want to add my dad and other people. And that's when it took us 2 years to make sure that it's, translated properly, adding more characters. So it was an established book, to be fair.
Yes.
That was done in certain languages that I've added on it. And of course made sure that historically, that the book, and that's very important, that it's historically verified, because with old people like that, some might exaggerate, some might have a bit of dementia or Alzheimer's.
Yes.
Memory issues, and you want to make sure that everything that's said is historically, we have people, Elan Papi, Avi Schleim, everything is, Edward Said, and all the, even, the maps coming from Salman Abu Sitte, all the scholars. And the book made it, and we had a really nice inauguration in Jordan, and now it's being it's being distributed all around.
Tell me, Azzam, did you yourself do the interviews for the people that you connected with?
Well, I was in some. I wasn't in some, but it was mainly Chris Conti and scholars around.
So
I'm not a writer. I am somebody who wanted the project to happen, and I wanted to get the right people there to do it. But I was somebody who's directing the whole situation.
But for example, did you interview your father, or was it?
Oh yes, I was there. I was there. I'll tell you something very funny, Malik. When I told him we want to do this, he was resisting it, okay, and saying no. And I said, look, you're gonna have to do it. If you don't like it, we're gonna make you read it, and you can throw it away, whatever.
Yeah.
So the first day of interview was with Chris, me, translator, and they're they're very nice. They accommodated my dad and everything. He started talking, and he wouldn't stop.
He was just waiting for someone to push him.
It was 8 sessions, and every time a session finishes, the next day he'd call me, when are they coming back? When are they coming back? So it was just a very, it was like therapy for him.
And what did he say when he saw the final book?
He loved it.
Yeah.
He was so proud, and when we did the inauguration, he was there with another 4 characters, and people were coming and taking pictures and having him sign it, and he was like a superstar,
It's so rewarding for you, Azzam, to have done that, I think, very heartwarming.
Yeah, and it was really rewarding. And also, it's nice because the book, all the revenues of the book, I'm putting it in Healing for Gaza, which is an initiative I also did, so basically it's like, an initiative feeding another. So now, the book is being sold, and we're like sending it to Healing for Gaza, which is trauma healing that I've established also. So that's also rewarding.
And this is helping people with their mental health, right?
Absolutely, because this thing of Gaza happening. I mean, this time it's much longer, but it happened in 2008, 2012. I mean, and people are always talking about whether it's food, whether it is fixing them physically, but nobody talks about the trauma. I mean, it's not PTSD, it's not post-trauma. It's an ongoing trauma happening all the time. People are born with wars and with having with their siblings and parents. So it was always on my mind that why is everybody donating money and efforts and not thinking of the mental health?
And no one had thought of that before, Azam, because to me it seems like such an obvious area that needs massive amounts of support.
They have. I mean, don't say I didn't reinvent the wheel, but they were always shy initiatives.
I see.
So for us, we're going. I'll tell you something, Malak. Alexandra Chen is the doctor that I work with, who is heading the initiative, and it's me, Ghassan Abu Sitta, Malik Nimr, Nora Abu Sitta, who are advisors to this. Alexandra is Chinese from Hong Kong, but she speaks 12 languages. Okay, because and she is like a Harvard graduate, and she's consulted to the UN. She is specialized in war trauma.
I see.
She's the only. And that's what we realized. The only war trauma specialist who speaks Arabic.
Wow, Azam, that's shocking.
That's shocking.
Isn't that shocking?
That's shocking. And that's
wow.
And the initiative is not us only getting children and frontliners. It's teaching Arabic psychologists on the war trauma. So basically, this is what we do. So we go to Cairo, we come to Jordan, and we collect all the ones who are contributing their time, and she trains them and gives them, certifies them as war trauma. Because it's funny that we are in this region and we don't have enough war trauma specialists.
Yeah, I'm very surprised to hear that, actually.
Yeah.
Considering, as you said, it's not the first time that this sort of issue comes up. I mean, it's been going on for decades, so I'm surprised that it's not at all being handled. Yeah.
You have psychologists, you have psychiatrists, but not specialized in war trauma.
Yeah.
And that's what we do.
When we come back after the break, Azzam tells me about his work with the feature film Palestine36, where he's not only a producer, but he also has a cameo role. This episode is brought to you by EFG Hermes One, your one app for investment across more than 35 stock markets worldwide. With EFG Hermes One, you can buy and sell orders in real time for immediate execution across multiple global markets. You can keep track of your favorite stocks by creating and customizing multiple watch lists, and make informed investment decisions with their advanced technical analysis tools to study market trends and investor behavior. So supercharge your financial journey and download the EFG Hermes One app on the Apple App Store and on Google Play and start investing today. Life after 50. You marked this down as a big pivot for you. When did you turn 50?
4 years ago. It was
4 years ago. You marked this down as a pivot for you. Why?
For the longest time, I mean, I graduated from university very young, started working hard. I mean, of course, my dad had money, but it was a new career for everybody in the family. It wasn't like we're coming and continuing something. I literally graduated and had to start with my brother a new career. And it was very hard work, Malak. Being in hospitality is like,
it's a very difficult industry to be in.
Very difficult. You don't have holidays. You don't have life. When people are having holidays, you're working. You need to be, and it's like the easiest industry to penetrate.
But also, you're not working for someone else. You're not working for a chain hotel. It's your own business.
And we had to be on top of it. We had to make sure that all the new industry penetrators, we need to be on top of it. Because, anybody with 100,000K, can actually go open a nice restaurant. It's not like the hardest thing in the world, but maintaining it is the hard part. I was the CEO of the company, the chief operating officer. So I was in every detail, making sure, the trainings. But then after a while, you do something so many times and for so long, it becomes second nature, and there stops being that much of a challenge. As much as before.
You've faced all the possible challenges, I guess, already by that point. So it's kind of on autopilot in a way, right?
Absolutely. And I realized that, my kids were growing, but I haven't spent so much time with them in terms of quality time, because I'm always on the phone and because I started other businesses also. I'd be on the phone with Spain, I'd be on the phone with UK, and when COVID happened, which was approaching my 50, we had to be sitting there with the family, spending more time with them,
Yep.
and then you realize there's two things: that joy of spending time with family, and the joy of doing things that are challenging again.
But were those new things that you were discovering, or were they also work related? Were they hobbies? Were they something outside of work?
I mean, let's say the Football Association is something outside work, and I
Yes,
don't get paid for it. It's a complete,
yes.
but it's very satisfying because,
Mm.
you're developing something that you love, but it's also to do with management. It's giving back
And
to the
young
country.
people. You're creating a ground
For young
roots
people, exactly.
initiative.
And when you see results, you say, and it's all management, and it's all, giving back your expertise in management and the human
Yeah.
relation, and it was very satisfying. And then, doing things that you like, yet they can be satisfying, not necessarily with money.
Yes, yes,
you know
yes.
I started believing in what's man shall not live with bread only. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yep.
before it's all about
Acquiring and material
acquiring
benefit.
and material benefit and stuff like that, but then there is this other satisfying part, whether it is spending time with family or with
Yeah.
doing things that don't have material rewards. And
Yeah.
it was just a very strange period during COVID.
Your political awakening must have happened at a very young age, Azzam,
Yes, no,
with a
it is.
father such as yours, right? I mean, do you remember at what age you realized what your heritage was? Or was it a very gradual,
No, no, no,
almost...
no, no. My dad tells me a story where one of his partners, partner, was telling him, he's telling me as a kid, Yalla Azam, grow up a bit so that I can make you marry my daughter. And I told him, no way, only I will marry a Palestinian.
Isn't that funny?
I was maybe 8.
Yeah. So I want to talk about your film. So you've got a new hat that you're wearing, which is producer, which is very exciting. And you're one of the producers on a new movie that's coming out or has come out called Palestine36. It's an actual movie, not a documentary, which I
Yeah,
always want.
it's a feature film, yeah.
It's a feature film. Tell me about it. Tell me about your involvement and how you got involved to begin with that.
I'm very good friends with Anne-Marie Jasser, who's a prominent Palestinian director, and her husband Osama Bawardi, who's a very good, a very prominent producer. He does films for her and for others.
Yeah.
He produced The Teacher and The Present and a lot of others. And she did Sea of the Salt, Wajib. But she's a good friend of mine, and she's always been talking to me, even 7-8 years ago, about her dream to do a film about the 1936 revolt, in Palestine.
And specify what that is for some of our listeners and viewers
Exactly.
who might not know.
So basically, this is a revolt that my grandfather was involved in, and a lot of people, even Palestinians, don't know. To me, because I read so much about it, it's the first Nakba. It's not 1948, because that's when the British mandate, they were, raising taxes on villagers' land. They were employing more Jewish people with higher pay than the Palestinians. And there was a group of people who realized this was happening. They include Al-Hajj Amin al-Husseini, Abdul Qadir Husseini, my granddad, Fakhreddin, people, Al-Hussein and others, were going around telling people, be careful. This is because, people did not understand. Villagers would have their taxes high on them, and they would sell the land because they can't afford to pay the taxes. But who would buy it? Some of the Jews who are, at that time, part of the fabric of Palestine, that there were Jews, just like there were Christians and Muslims. And that's when, it started off with a strike. They did a strike in 36, and this extended, and it's classified as the longest strike in history, which is between 36 and 39. And then from the strike, it became a revolt. But then the British went crazy, and aided by, of course, the militias, the Haganas, and these were established at that time. and they were burning villages. There was collective punishment. They were hanging people, and it was very close to me because my grandfather was, he was jailed in Akka, and I told you, he escaped, and my dad was with him, and she was telling me that people need to know. First of all, they need to know that Palestine was never land without people at that time. There was businesses. There was Jerusalem was thriving.
Yeah.
Kulsum and Abdul Wahab used to go sing there.
Well, at the time, the early 20th century, everything was so fluid in the Middle East. People
Yes,
would move
yes,
from Jerusalem to Baghdad to Cairo.
of
It was
course,
all one. People were just moving all the time.
absolutely.
And the connections were very strong.
Yeah, actually, we call it the first Nakba. Then World War II happened.
Yeah.
And that's why it was postponed till 48. So World War II happened. The British were too engaged in the war. They were, they were having Arabs joining them. And after that, between 45 and 48 is when the Nakba happened.
Mm-hmm.
So she told me about that. She wrote it. And then she gave me the script. And I read and I said, love it. I want to be part of this. And I was one of the first producers to come and say, I am on board.
Involved.
Yeah. And what was very interesting, Malak, and that's very interesting, is that movie basically incriminates what the British did. Yet, British Film Institute and BBC are the biggest financial contributors of this
It's a
movie.
very interesting contradiction, actually. Yeah.
Guilt money, I call it. I call it guilt money.
Guilt money.
Yeah, I call it guilt money, absolutely, because otherwise, So basically, the project started, and then, it started getting bigger, and the budget bigger, and we said, okay, you know what, we're going to put big stars in it. So we have Jeremy Irons and Liam Cunningham.
He's unbelievable. He's a huge star.
Yeah, he's an Oscar winner,
Amazing. And now you've been nominated for an Oscar.
Well, yeah, it's not the nomination. It's actually, how they do it. Each country has so many films presenting, and Palestine chose us out of 11 movies to represent them in the Oscars.
I see.
And then and now we're going to have to work hard to make people watch it there. But what's really nice about the movie also is that it has a collection of stars and collection of producers. We have so many prominent Palestinians who contributed into this. We have Qatar, we have the Red Sea Film Fund, we have the BFI. So it's a big movie. It's the biggest budget in the history of Palestine to be done.
Yeah.
And it's a historic feature film.
And you showed me the trailer. I already saw the trailer, which is phenomenal. I'm just so excited to watch this film. And what I thought was really cute is that you play an extra in it. So we have a
speaking
photo.
Extra, Malak, please. Speaking extra.
Speaking extra. So this is a big deal, Azzam, this movie coming out. It's a really big deal.
Yeah, and Malak, it's really interesting because the journey, I'm a co-producer, so it's not just I put money, I was involved in every detail. And again, it's all about the challenge and the learning. And that's what I realized post 50, that I want to learn new things, and I want to be, you don't want to be stuck in what you do. And now, I am in meetings of distribution, meetings of interviews, how to be, and it's like a whole industry.
Yeah.
So, so I don't think it's going to be my last movie.
No. And I think, we get to an age where these passion projects, when you find something you love that's meaningful, you have to throw yourself into it. You just have to. Yeah.
Exactly. That gives me satisfaction now, much more than just business.
And what have you learned in this process of producing the movie for yourself? What have you enjoyed about it the most?
What I realized is something you said, is at this age, you want to be around people who are passionate, artsy, loving, non-judgmental. There's just so many things that I've decided, in the business world, it can get ugly. Honestly, Malak, when you're in the corporate life, it's very harsh, and a lot of things are not,
and ruthless.
Yes, and ruthless, and it's based on this is what the business needs, and I guess I'm just softer than that with age. And with the movie, although I'm sure the movie industry has like this ugly side, but with this experience, it was a lot to do with the passion towards the cause, and even with the foreigners, even with Jeremy and Liam, and I met them. Liam Cunningham is the guy in Game of Thrones who actually went on the flotilla to go to Gaza. So he is like so pro-Palestinian, and it was just loving and soothing to have that.
Azzam, when you look at the bigger picture as well, I think for so many people, the Palestine issue has become such a huge issue, whether you're
Mm,
Arab, whether you're foreign. We've seen those marches all around the world in the major cities. But what I specifically like about this project that you're involved in is that it sheds a light on the origins of all this that a lot
mhm,
of people
mhm,
don't know.
mhm, mhm.
We're preoccupied with the horrors of what's happening in front of our eyes every day, but this origin story is so important because you rightly say the implications and the fault lies with Europeans, like so many of
Mm,
our problems in our region.
mm,
And I think it's very interesting that, as you said, you've got the BBC, the BFI involved with it. Netflix is a fund also funding. You know, maybe it is guilt money, or maybe it's just that they are understanding that this is where society is today, that these are the issues that are affecting everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to judge whatever they. I mean, a lot of them would look at, this is a very interesting topic, and people would want to watch it, so we'll make money. Whatever it is,
Sure,
I'm not judging.
sure.
But what I tell you something, Malak, which is very important that I have to mention about this topic, and healing for Gaza, and the book and everything. One of the things that I realize, and I keep on telling all Palestinians, and mainly Palestinians, even Arabs, is one of the things that changed me a lot, is the fact that when you look at the people inside Palestine, inside Gaza, it's enough for these people to be steadfast and be able to just be able to still be there. That's by itself is major, major, major resistance. My biggest question always, what are we doing about it? People in the diaspora, because it's all in our hands. Every time I see a Palestinian and he starts saying, "Oh, look at the Arabs, look what they've done, look at the," my question to him, what are you doing about it? I mean, for us to just sit there, having some lib and watching TV and saying, "Haram, these guys are dying." Little initiatives, small things, if we can accumulate small things, mainly Palestinians in the diaspora, you get, and I always tell people, they say, "What can we do? What can we do to make a difference?" I say, stick yourself to any initiative, because giving money, you do it once and you forget about it. And once the war is over, you think you've done. Once you stick to a certain initiative, healing for Gaza, for me, I'm stuck with it. I've started this initiative. It's there forever,
Yep, 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 yep.
and also the movie, and the book. To me, it's things that can be always there, and that's why this is the kind of thing that I'm committed to, and I would love everybody, even small things. It doesn't have to be something big. Just stick to yourself to something small that can be continuous.
So, Hazem, I want to finish on a very, very light, 5 minutes more of your time, very light ending. It's something I call the lightning round, and I've
Mhm.
been doing it this whole year with guests. So,
Yalla.
family business or passion project?
Passion projects.
You wouldn't have said that 10 years ago, right?
Mhm. No,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not with family business, but anyway.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
A home life or party?
Home life.
Home life.
Mm.
What's your favorite activity?
Watching football.
Live or on TV?
Either.
Both.
Yes.
What's your least favorite activity?
Having nothing to do.
Does that ever happen?
Rarely.
How do you fill your time when you don't have
I
anything to
sleep
do? What do
I
you do?
sleep 4 hours a day.
Are you serious? Is that all?
Yeah. Yeah, 4
Oh,
hours, maximum
wow.
5. And I wake up, by the way, very early, but I don't go to the office very early. I read in the morning. I can't read at night. So basically, I wake up the first one in the house. My kids claim I don't, but I do. And and way before Rana, my wife. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And I do all my contemplation and reading and researching and stuff like that in the morning. And then and it's like activity and things I do, and whether all that stuff. And at night, I always hope that there's a football game at night. I'd like to watch a game and then sleep.
So you're exactly like me. I do all my heavy thinking and like intellectual stuff very early in the morning. And in
Absolutely.
fact, you and
Absolutely.
I were texting each other very early to organize, things for
Exactly.
this interview. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
So what If someone was to say to you, I have difficulty, how would you end that sentence?
I have difficulty accepting any injustice.
Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
actually, it corresponds with your life,
Yeah.
what you've just said.
It's funny, Malak, just I have to say it. Somebody of my family, something happened to him, which really pissed me off. I mean, he was on the bad side. So I was really pissed off and kept on asking him, what happened? What happened? And then my sister's like, Azzam, why don't you just let it go? It's not your problem. And I said, I can't. This is
You need to
unfair. You
know.
know what
You
I
need
mean?
to know. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Last question, which is a positive one. I want you to finish the sentence. I get joy from
I get joy from being around good people.
doing good things.
Yeah, just good people. Just I get joy being around loving good people.
Yeah, yeah.
With no agendas, with no prejudgments. Just I come to Sahel 3-4 days to see all my old friends because it's just 3 days of no judgment and just
Positivity. And a big bear hug when you come to see all your friends.
yeah,
It's like being
everybody hugs me
enveloped
so
in a
much.
big bear hug.
Yeah, exactly.
Coming up on part 2 of our conversation, Azzam tells me how he got started in his family hospitality business and his involvement with the Jordanian football team. It'll be out next week, so stay tuned. If you've enjoyed this episode, please let us know by leaving us a comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or on Instagram. You can also sign up to connect with me directly on our website. Just hit the subscribe link in the top right-hand corner and sign up for free. Thank you for joining me today on What I Did Next. I'm Malak Fuad, and the show is produced by Chirag Desai. See you again next week.